of the City of Peekskill Common Council, myself as mayor, and our city manager, Matthew Alexander, I'd like to say congratulations to Dr. McGurty for his award from the Peekskill Museum for 40 years of service. Could not have gone to a better individual, a person who has served this city tirelessly over the past 40 years. Dr. McGurty, thank you so much, and we appreciate you.
It's a pleasure to congratulate my colleague and friend, Dr. John McGurty, on being selected as the honoree for this year's Peekskill Museum event. Dr. John McGurty and I are classmates. We went to medical school together and we've worked together throughout our entire careers. He's been the director of the emergency room at Hudson Valley Hospital, and also equally important, he is the founding member of our local ALS or paramedics program. Without John, you would not be able to dial 911 and have the ambulances come right to your house to rush you to the hospital in times of dire need. He has been a real leader in our community, a real good friend to all of us, and to me, a special colleague and close friend. Once again, congratulations, John. This is so well deserved. You've worked so hard for all of us, and we're so happy to be able to recognize you today.
When it comes to Dr. John McGurty Jr., we go a long way back, all the way back to grammar school at the Assumption School. And we had not a direct connection there because he's like 3 years younger than me, but his sister Mary Ellen was in my class, and our fathers were contemporary MDs here in Peekskill, both of them family physicians. Dr. McGurty obviously took care of an awful lot of the Irish in town back in those days, and my father, Dr. Scucciamara, took care of most of the Italians in those days. That's the way it was done. That's when the medical profession was much different than what it was or what it is today. So Dr. John McGurty Jr. comes to town and picks up where his father left off, setting up a very successful, what became a very successful family practice here in town. But he integrated himself not only into the medical environment here in the Peekskill area, but into the community more so than just about anybody else you can think about. If there was a Mount Rushmore of important citizens in the city of Peekskill, John McGurty Jr. Would be part of that Mount Rushmore of great citizens in the city of Peekskill's history. So he's done so much for the community, so much for the fire department, the police department, the community at large. Whenever there was a need for people to make some contributions, he was always there. Obviously, whenever anybody was in need from a medical standpoint, he was always there. And from a friendship standpoint, I'm fortunate enough to be one of his good friends here in town, and I can speak for all of his friends in town, and from his Notre Dame days and from his Navy days. John is somebody who really holds his friendships near and dear to his heart, and we in turn hold his friendship with us near and dear to our heart. He's a very special guy. He's made a very special life for himself, his wife Kathy, and his 3 daughters, and their kids and husbands now. And it's just a wonderful thing that the museum did in honoring him. And at the recent gala, they could not have chosen a better individual to honor. Dr. John McGurty Jr., #1, Mount Rushmore.
Hello, John, and congratulations. Joe Brady here, wishing you the very best for such a deserved honor. I was asked to share a story, and I'm going to share one of the classic stories, certainly for the Peekskill St. Patrick's Committee, which you vividly recall, I'm sure, back in 1999, when you were Grand Marshal. You were down at Kelly's. We were celebrating your ascension to be Grand Marshal. And I knew it was a long day, and I kind of had the sense that you were getting ready to leave, when all of a sudden somebody tapped me on the shoulder to say that Governor Pataki was on his way to congratulate you. Coming up to the city, he'd be there in about an hour. And I says, oh my goodness, how are we going to keep John McGurty here for an hour? So I reached out to Pat Garvey and said, what can we do to keep him here? We had no idea. And then another tap on the shoulder. Someone asked me to go downstairs because there was an incident. Why I was getting involved, I don't know. But I went downstairs, and there was this big, strapping young man, a fellow from out of town who was temporarily working at Kelly's, who happened to stand up and split his head open by hitting the pipe in the basement. He's sitting there bleeding like crazy. I said, oh my goodness, this is not for me. So I went up and again went to Pat Garvey to say, I think we need to call an ambulance for this guy. And I didn't want John McGurty to get involved because I didn't want to interfere with the celebration, but Pat Garvey reminded me that John was going to get involved no matter what. So I asked the doctor if he would come down with me to look at this kid. And he went downstairs and this kid was bleeding all over the place. And you could tell right away John was in his element. Calm, cool, and collected, went over and told the kid, this needs to be sutured. You should go to the emergency room. And the young man said, I don't want to go to the emergency room. I'll be there all night. And John said, you know, you're right about that. He looked at me and he says, why don't you get your car? And I'll at an unnamed nurse that was upstairs, who shall remain unnamed, I think for fear that she was going to be sued perhaps, for accompanying us in my car to John's office. On the way over, this guy says to me, holding his head, and says, well, who is this dude? I said, this is Dr. John McGurty. I said, you're in good hands. And he got into the office, into the chair, and John sutured him up. The kid was thrilled to be back at Kelly's. We arrived back at Kelly's after about 5 minutes or so. Governor Pataki showed up, and all was well. And John kept on his sash as he sutured the kid. It still had some blood stains on it, but that is one of the most classic St. Patrick stories to share. And I hope you enjoyed that little story, and wishing you all the best, Doc. Take care.
Well, Dr. McGurty and Kathy were one of the first people to welcome me to Peekskill when I first arrived here at the end of 2015. I did not know a lot about community hospitals, and I was put here to succeed a long-term president at NYP Hudson Valley Hospital. They were so welcoming to me and invited me to their home and told me about this community and the impact that the McGurtys have had on this community for decades and generations. And I've seen that come to fruition for the last 7 years that I've been here with Dr. McGurty's commitment to our community and continued commitment to our emergency department. He is one of a kind. John, you're one of a kind. Your kindness, your outreach, your ability to just continue making things better, particularly with our EMS team. Your support of them has been legendary and so effective, and I'm so glad that we've been able to temporarily house our EMS team so that you could build a wonderful new center for them. They deserve it, and your leadership there has made them an amazing team. So I just want to thank you for all of your contributions that I couldn't possibly name without being here for a few hours to this hospital, to NYP Hudson Valley, to our Cortland EMS team, and I'm just grateful for being able to know you and for you having had such a big impact on this place. Thank you.
So here we are honoring Dr. McGurty. So many things have been said about this man. I don't know what to add other than I've known Dr. McGurty over 30 years. He's been a staple in this community, from our medical director here at the Ambulance Corps to being the director of emergency medicine at Hudson Valley Hospital Center to being on the scene on some of our worst calls that we've ever had. Dr. McGurty is always that same guy, day in, day out. Any call you go on, from a broken ankle to a car accident, he is the exact same guy who will treat patients with nothing but care and positivity in everything that he does. He helps us in so many ways, from mentoring our members to helping them become better EMTs and medical professionals in the field. I can go on and on. It's been an honor knowing him, working with him for all these years, and having him in our community. He's been a godsend and a blessing. So congratulations, Dr. McGurty. Thank you for everything you do, and here at Peekskill Ambulance, we thank you.
Well, I have to admit, John McGurty is somebody I've admired for a really long time. He was my doctor until he decided he had to go take care of bigger fish around the world. And he's a fabulous doctor, but he's such a lovely man, and we're so lucky that he grew up in Peekskill and decided to pour all his resources and the richness of his skills back into our community. So I really congratulate him on this honor, which I know he would like to forego. He's putting up with this so that the museum can raise some much needed money, which is very kind of John, and that's at the core of John McGurty kindness.
I just want to say about Dr. McGurty. Dr. John McGurty has been an incredible member of the city of Peekskill for as long as I can remember, and before him, his father. John has really been there for Peekskill. He's been there for the fire department, he's been there for the emergency room in the hospital, he's been there for so many different people, and I'm really thrilled that he was honored by the museum. Long deserved honor, and I'm very happy, and I just want to say congratulations. You deserve it.
As for honoring my friend Dr. McGurty, in being in the local sense, I will paraphrase something I learned from Father Ansbro, late, of the Assumption Church. When he had a man similar to Dr. McGurty, he described him as a gentle gentleman. I never forgot that, as he was a beautiful man himself. And as far as I'm trying to emulate here, is that Dr. McGurty is not only a friend, but we in the community have probably absolutely loved that man for his selfless dedication, not only to the community, but to the country itself. He's an amazing fellow in his selfless indulgence with the career path that he's chosen. And for that, as far as I'm concerned, he deserves every bit of our admiration and our love, and I'm not thinking of that in the lightest of terms. So for me and from our heart and from, I would say, from the community at large, Doc, we love you, and we give you all of our merits and our appreciation, and like I said, our heartfelt thanks.
So welcome everyone, welcome everyone. You know, this is why you shouldn't have an open bar. Everybody is just yapping. All right, is there a doctor in the house? Is there a doctor in the house? I'm sure there are. Anyway, can I have everybody's attention? We're gonna have a little short program here. We hope to make it a lot of fun and entertaining. And it's your chance at part of this program to share your stories and your remembrances and your, well, I don't want to, it sounds like he's died, remembrances of Doc McGurty and all he's done for our community. And what an outstanding person in so many ways, and we'll get into that later. That's not my job, that's Anita, who's going to do a great job, I know. But I want to thank you all for coming to make this a huge success. And I want to thank Dr. John McGurty Jr. for allowing us to make him the honoree of the Peekskill Museum for this event. John, the outpouring of community support and of donations and of contribution and everything is just tremendous. The best event for the museum in a financial standpoint ever. I want to thank Anita Cream, our events committee chairperson. Anita. And I want to thank our committee, Diane Webster, Dan Grossman, John Curran. I want to thank John Beers, who wasn't on the committee, but all of those posters out there and that TV screen, all that stuff wouldn't be there without John Beers. So I want to thank him for that. And I also want to thank John Curran, because all of those photos and all the things on that poster board wouldn't have been there without John Curran's hard work and dedication. So I want to acknowledge him. And I want to thank Mary Ellen McGurty, John's sister, for providing a lot of those photos and a lot of little remembrances. And maybe John won't appreciate it, but we did. Anyway, you can see from that collection out there of the photos and everything, there's a huge history in Peekskill and this whole community about healthcare, about the hospital, and about medicine. And that's what we're trying to celebrate here tonight. The McGurty family has been part of that for almost a century. John's father and John carried on, and you're going to hear a lot of people. It's interesting. We're taping this for our website, which means about 100 people might see it. But anyway, the fact is, I went around and asked people, "Do you want to make a comment about John?" And so many people stepped forward, and all they could say about John is how terrific, responsive, and loving and caring he was as a physician. And a lot of us would lament the fact that you have these healthcare groups now and all that stuff, and you don't have that personal touch that's so important. We also celebrate tonight the history of the hospital here in Peekskill. There's a photo out there. There's a hospital called Helping Hands. That was the first hospital founded in, John Curran helped me out, like 18 something or other. Well, John Curran left. No. Anyway, in 18 years, and then it grew into Peekskill Hospital, and then I remember when they changed the name to the Peekskill Cortland Hospital, and everybody in Peekskill went nuts, even though the hospital's in Cortland. That's where it is, in Cortland. And now it's and now it's New York Presbyterian, and they have taken this hospital to a new level of competence and health care that's unbelievable. So, and at some point, we talked about this as a board of trustees. Next year sometime, we're going to have a whole history of that hospital and talk about how it grew in this community and served this community over the decades. I also want to thank the two people at the front desk who you all saw. They're not even members of our board. I don't even think we comped them for the food and the booze. But anyway, Joan Robbins and Pat Cortelli at the front desk. They deserve our support. I want to thank Finn and Brew and Louis Lanza for having us here at this beautiful location. And I also want to thank Don Bertolini and Sons, because you don't know it, but for years, every time we have an event, we have these canvas poster signs made. And Don Bertolini and Sons does that for us gratis. And it's very important to us, and it's great, and we appreciate it so much. All right. If you keep applauding like this, we'll never get done. All right, I want to thank our entire Board of Trustees, and I'd like each member of the Board of Trustees who's here tonight to stand up and take a bow. I'm already standing, Anita's already standing. John Beers, Michael Marks, Dan Grossman, Kathy Herman, our treasurer, John Curran, who won't stand, and Diane Webster. Anybody else? Did I miss somebody? And there are a few members who couldn't make it tonight. Of course, I want to thank our sponsors and many of those who've donated to the museum. We receive no government funds. We rely entirely on membership fees, donations, and events like this that help raise us money. So the generosity of tonight's sponsors will afford the museum the opportunity to finish the renovations to our museum with the Herrick House, and also to finally have a driveway that isn't like the face of the moon, that you could drive in and do some things that are good. So let me take a moment to personally point out our sponsors tonight. And if they want, they can stand up and take a bow. We're not going to let you give a speech, but you can stand up and take a bow. Giordano Builders, very generous. The Lanza Family Foundation, who have been terrific. Ginsberg Development. New York Presbyterian Hospital, who's just been outstanding and helping us a lot. Table 9, which the old timers here remember it as the Reef and Beef, but it's actually a step up better. So, Holtec, Drumhill, Phil Hirsch, Orange Bacon Trust, Marathon Development, and the Hudson Valley Irish Festival. So all of those people. So You know, I like to think they're all here for the museum, but I know they're here for John McGurty. I know that truthfully, that's why they stepped up to the plate. I also want to mention that most of the city council and Mayor McKenzie from Peekskill were here earlier. They have a meeting tonight at 7 o'clock, but they were able to join us for the cocktail party. And we also have two former mayor, I think, is Mayor Foster here? Former Mayor Foster? Oh, and our former town supervisor, I know, Linda Puglisi is here. She wouldn't have missed this for the world, she said. Oh, yeah. Yes, and another former mayor, and actually there's another former mayor after that. Another former mayor, Vinnie Vesey. What a hand. And another former mayor, you might have known this guy, George Pataki. So for those of you who have not ever been to oh my God, Frank. Wow. But there's only one former county legislator here. And thank you. Thank you, whoever's clapping. Kathy Herman, thank you. Those of you who haven't visited or toured the museum, we're open Saturdays from 1 to 4, or if you call and make an appointment, we'll arrange that. If you're not a member, sign up. We have the little blue cards out there you can do. That entitles you to some events. We have a whole lecture series named after Calvert Schlicht, who was one of our former presidents and left us a small endowment for those types of things. And I just want to state briefly our mission, which is to collect, preserve, study, and display artifacts, documents, photographs, and items pertaining to the history of Peekskill and its surrounding area, provide information about Peekskill and regional history through exhibits, programs, and publications, and to preserve and maintain the Herrick House. And that's the main reason we have these fundraisers, because that's a house built in 1878, and you know how expensive it is to preserve and maintain a house. And so before Anita takes over the program here, because she's going to, by the way, very responsible for this whole program, and she deserves a lot of kudos for that. We have two distinguished guests who promised they will be brief, but I wish to wish to acknowledge Dr. John McGurty. And so first I want to bring up his former medical school classmate, Dr. Richard Becker, who is now the town supervisor of our town of Cortland. Dr. Becker.
Rich did the study.
I copied all the answers off his desk. I didn't know about the brief part. Oh, okay. John and I go way back to medical school, and at a time when disco was king. I won't say how long ago that was. And we've practiced together our entire careers. And at a time when NYP, before that Hudson Valley, before that Peekskill Hospital, when the ER was about 5 or 6 gurneys with curtains, and that was it. And many a night, late at night, and I remember one night on Halloween riding an ambulance to the medical center for care we couldn't provide locally, and the ambulance was getting egged because it was Halloween. We have deep memories, but John is a fixture in Peekskill. The quality of his medicine, his personality, his 24/7, 365 attitude towards medicine, to his patients, for the community, being the city police surgeon, and all the work he's done for the community. And we're still working together because John is the physician in charge of the paramedics program, which serves both Peekskill and Cortland. And we're currently working on modifying that and making it even more successful in providing them with a permanent housing, and which we've accomplished, and just growing the program. So John continues to be involved, and I give Kathy all the credit, of course. Can I ask my co-council member and Deputy Supervisor Jim Creighton to come up? I'll let Jim give you this proclamation, because he made it in his garage this afternoon.
If only I were that handy. Dr. McGurty, I wish we could be at your house presenting this there. And
we could do that. We can move everyone up to the house. No problem.
Nothing like having a beautiful grand piano. And this means so much to all of our community. And I know from the town of Cortland, we're so incredibly proud of everything that you've done for all of us and all that you've done, really to make this community a community that cares for one another, a community that really doesn't just love one another, but shows that love. So, Dr. John A. McGurty Jr., congratulations on receiving this well-deserved honor from the Peekskill Museum for your many years of dedicated service. The town of Cortland would like to recognize your contributions as the medical director of the Cortland Regional Paramedics. We're so grateful for the Advanced Life Support Program that services the residents of our community, and we commend you on your many accomplishments and achievements. And this is from the town supervisor, Dr. Richard Becker, and the town board, May Jim Creighton, Kristen Jacoby, Francis Farrell, and Robert Mays. Thank you so much.
Thank you. What you don't know about Jim is that he's a terrific singer. So I don't know if you'd like to maybe do that again and sing it.
I'll go that way. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Rich, thank you so much. And I must also say this too. Linda,
Thank you,
please, could you stand up, ex-supervisor? This,
John, can you come up here and speak, Chris?
for ex-supervisor Pugliese, this could not have happened without you. You were the powerhouse to make the regional paramedic program from its inception go. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Becker, Supervisor Pugliese, and Jim Creighton, Councilman and Deputy Supervisor. And now I lost my notes. Oh, no, here I know where I am. Okay, so now I want to introduce somebody to say a few words. And he is the former mayor of the city of Peekskill. He's the former governor. But more important, he's the former vice president of the Peekskill Museum Board. And we honored him last year, and we had a rousing success with that. And so with that, I want to bring up Governor George Pataki.
Thank you, George. Yes, when I came back to Peekskill, one of the first things I did was join the board of the museum and become the vice president. I needed the money. It was just a tremendous opportunity. Before I get going, I want to thank Kathy McGurty, because John is being honored tonight, but none of it happens without the unbelievable, not just standing behind, but often in front of John, of Kathy McGurty. So Kathy, thank you for everything. That way, in case John forgot her and screwed up tonight, he'd still be off the hook. So that was that. I just want to say a little bit about the museum. When I came back, I did get involved in the museum because this area has unbelievable history. And it's amazing how many people are unaware of that history. And I've been going there since I first came back, and I'll tell you, as many of you know, two of Libby and my kids are authors, and they write historical novels. And they have spent so much time down at that museum because the material that is there is phenomenal. And I know Anita's done a phenomenal job, so many of the volunteers have, but did John Curran actually leave? Because my son, where is John? Back. Because John has just been a spectacular force at the museum. Yeah. And he's taken my kids and I through the museum, and I just want to tell you one thing I saw. You know, you all know that Benedict Arnold tried to betray West Point, and Major Arnold fought here and hung in Cortland and Gallows Hill. What people don't know is that at the museum, they have copies of the documents that Andre had in his boot. And I'll tell you, I was blown away when you look at these things. And it has each readout, the number of troops here, the number of soldiers who are sick. And that is the type of unbelievable history that exists at that museum that you won't find anyplace else. So to all of you involved with the museum, thank you, and I can't wait to get back there again. And now I think there's another reason we're here tonight. I'm getting old. Celebrating somebody who's done. Oh, I'll tell you, on behalf of the 37 former mayors of Peekskill who are here tonight, I have to tell you, just as one former mayor, when I was a storefront abogado at 1008 Main Street, trying to rise up the political ladder, right downtown, you'd see the ambulance go by. And it was going to Wesley Hall, or it was going to Peekskill Plaza, or it was going to somebody's house. And you see the ambulance, and right behind it, you would see John McGurty. And I thought to myself then, and I have thought ever since, how lucky this community is to have one of the best emergency room doctors in the world following an ambulance for a house call or a call at Wesley Hall. There is no other community. There is no other community I'm aware of that has someone with the skill and dedication of John McGurty. And we all owe him an enormous debt of gratitude. And I'll tell you, my father was a firefighter. And there's not a firefighter in Peekskill and Cortland who doesn't understand what he did for them every single day. Helping them with physicals, helping them make sure they got the medical care they needed, giving them advice when guys like Pete Kelly put on too much weight. You know, he was there. He was there constantly, making sure that the people were taken care of. Forgive me, Pete, it's a cheap shot, but I couldn't help it. And then just, you don't have your gun, I hope, but anyway, I cannot tell you the number of times I said, thank God John McGurty lives in Peekskill and is so committed to this community. And now, you know, he's on his 900th job, and he works Monday to Friday, but Saturday and Sunday, you will find him out at the Peekskill Hospital, still call it Peekskill Hospital, in the emergency room, taking care of people in critical need, and there's no one better to do it. So we all owe him an enormous debt of gratitude that we can never repay. George, you're honoring him and the museum's honoring him tonight is terrific and something overdue and very appropriate. And I can tell you, to all of you, if you have something go wrong where you have to go out to an emergency room on the weekend, check the TV. If Notre Dame is losing, go to Phelps. If Notre Dame is losing, go to Phelps. But if Notre Dame is not playing or they're winning, get your ass out to Peekskill Hospital. He will take the best care of you possible. John, thank you. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Governor. That was terrific. That really was. And at this point, I want to turn the program over to Anita Cream, who chaired our events committee, came up with the idea of, we're trying to find ways to raise money and do things. And she said, Doc McGurty's been so involved in this community, maybe we could do something around him. And she put together a little committee, and I mentioned their names before. They all worked very hard, and they made it a very successful event. And she also knows Doc McGurty for, I guess, well, you're younger than him, right? Anyway, she's known him a long time and known the family a long time. And I'm going to turn the program over to her let's put a little spotlight on Doc McGurty and all he's done for our community. So thank you all for coming again and for the sponsorships.
Well, with all these professional speakers and politicians, it's going to be pretty hard for me to top that. But I'm going to try to give it to you from my perspective. I've known John McGurty since he was a little kid. He went to school with my brother at the Assumption. He was in my mother's Cub Scout den pack. And he would sit there at the table, and I'd look at him in his cute little blue Cub Scout uniform. You know, he liked uniforms back then, too. He always had a propensity for uniforms. And then when I got married in well, I won't say when, but he was still in elementary school. He was the altar boy at my wedding. So we go back a long time. And of course, I knew his father way before that because his father was my family doctor. And we loved Dr. John McGurty Sr. And he had a special way with people too. And I think a lot of that has rubbed off on John because John has a way with people, just like his father did. When his father came to the house for house calls, we had a piano, and my mother would get, oh, you know, you have a fever, we have to call Dr. McGurty. But clean off those piano keys, because Dr. McGurty's coming, and when he finishes giving you that shot, he's going to sit down and play the piano. And sure enough, he would come in and, you know, he'd do the things the doctor does, give us the shot, and then go into the living room, sit down, and play the piano. And we were just so enthralled with, you know, the piano playing. So it just made it a little bit different. It was something to look forward to. And of course, my mother was very proud of the fact that she could tell her friends and neighbors that Dr. McGurty Sr. came and played the piano at our house. Never mind the shot, it was the piano, you know. So when we were trying to decide exactly what we were going to do, and I was going to introduce Dr. McGurty, I'm like, this isn't anybody that needs an introduction. I mean, everybody in this room knows him. I'm going to introduce him? I mean, there's people here that probably know him better than I do, although I've probably known him longer than most of you. Anyway, I'm just delighted to be able to do that. And so I have to put my glasses on and take a look here so I don't forget anything, because he has touched so many lives in the community. His private patients, his patients at the ER, he has devoted so many hours to this community. He's always taken an active interest in everything, not just in medicine, but other things that are going around. Whenever there's an event in town, you'll always find Dr. McGurty there. He came to the Peekskill Ambulance Corps when I was a volunteer there. He had just come into Peekskill and started his practice. And he came to me and he said, I want to do something for the ambulance corps. I want to see if there's a way I can help and improve emergency service. I mean, we didn't have to go to him and ask him to come and, you know, would you do anything or could you come to a meeting? He approached me. I remember going to his office one night when the office closed, and he gave me this proposal. And of course, we were delighted. We were EMTs, but we didn't have really anything special beyond that. So when he came and offered his services, it was just so flattering, and it really encouraged a lot of young people who were going to go into emergency medical services. It encouraged them to want to do better, to improve their skills, and to go out on a call and have Dr. McGurty join us. I mean, to watch him in action, and then it just made you want to do better. It made you want to learn more. And so how many people in this room, or people that have graduated or went on to medical school or nursing or paramedics? It's because of Dr. McGurty. Really. Even with the fire department and the police department, he's always played an active role there. He was the police surgeon, just like his father was the police surgeon. I think you followed in his footsteps on that one, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yes, you did. And so maybe that's where he got a little touch of it, a little desire to try to work in emergency services. But anyway, he's recognized locally and regionally. And I was going to say, you probably don't know that he had a lot to do with creating the Peekskill Cortland Regional Paramedics. But you've already been told about that, but he certainly did with that. And that certainly changed the whole stature of the ambulance corps too. But John has been recognized already by many, many organizations in Peekskill. He was the recipient of the Peekskill Elks Club Civic Award. He received the Chester Smith Award presented by the Friends of the Field Library. Like his father before him, he was chosen to be the Grand Marshal of the St. Patrick's Day Parade. Actually, Kathy was too. And that's probably the best you could do for an Irishman. Let him be the Grand Marshal of the parade. Oh my God, that's wonderful. So, also the trauma center designation for the hospital, he had a lot to do with that. But maybe one of the things that maybe some of you don't know is I think the pinnacle of his patriotic career was being asked to serve and do 2 tours of duty in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Germany. And that to me is, we need to give him thanks for that. So after, is it 35 or 39 years? 35 years, he's retired as a reserve, active and reserve. You're retired. Totally retired? Totally retired from that. But certainly it's something, and this is one thing I'd like to just point out to you. If you ever go into City Hall, when you go into the lobby, off to the right, there's a plaque on the wall. And actually we have a copy of it out there in the entranceway when you came in, if you looked at the pictures. And there's the plaque and a flag that flew in Iraq when he was there. And he sent that to the city of Peekskill. And, can you hear me? Okay. Oh, hurrah. But if you notice, there's a letter underneath it that he hand wrote about his time there. And it's very, very emotional, very moving, a beautiful, beautiful letter. So we had somebody enlarge it so you can read the actual text of it. But if you get a chance to, it's worth looking at. And when I think about that, and I look at that letter, totally handwritten, I think to myself, is he a real doctor? That handwriting is too darn good to be a doctor. But anyway, it's a beautiful, emotional letter, and the handwriting is beautiful. That's enough? No, it's not. I'm almost finished. I just wanted to say that not only did he do all these things professionally, but he's always been considered like a friend. Everybody knows him. So if you're a jogger in the morning, he's out there jogging, and people run and they jog with him, and they tell their stories. Oh, I jogged with Dr. McGurty this morning. We went 5 miles, or we went 10 miles, whatever. Everybody's always so proud to be able to say they jogged with Dr. McGurty. He would stop off at the Quiet Man and hang out there, or maybe listen to some of the music at the sessions, talk about the next St. Patrick's Day parade. Everybody was excited to see him. He was always so warm and inviting to everybody. He was always interested in what was going on. Well, what's going on with you, and how's your family? And, you know, everybody. It didn't make any difference what your stature in the community was. Everybody was special to him. And that's what made him special to us. And then I just got one more thing to say. I've seen him several times picking up a pizza at the Paradise restaurant. And he would stop in there to pick up the pizza, and everybody had to come and say hello and talk to him and how you doing. And the pizza's getting cold, and I said to him one night, the pizza's going to be cold by the time you get it home. And he said, Kathy's used to it. She's got the oven preheated. And that's happened more than once. But everybody wants to say hello. And he always makes time for everybody. He doesn't brush you off quickly. He's just like, really, like, always a friend to everybody. And we love you for that. Yeah. And I just have one more thing to say before we take questions from the floor or little vignettes from the floor. Well, we know that Kathy has been at his right hand the whole time. But he has 3 beautiful, accomplished girls, women, and I'm sure that they were all part of the support that he received. Is it true that they used to help you wash your vehicle? I heard rumors that after a fire that they would give him a hand cleaning. I don't know if that's true or not, but we'll ask you that question later. But now, as a parent, I know how proud you are when you have children that become accomplished and on their own. And so, you guys have special girls, and I think it's due to the credit of both of you. And thank you for raising such a beautiful family. And to Mary Ellen McGurty, John's sister, she has been invaluable in helping us put this together, all of the artifacts out there. And I thank her for it. And not only was she good in doing that, but we had such a fun time talking about old times. And there's more times to talk about. Mary Ellen and I are going to get together again and talk about some more old times. So I think that's about all I'm going to say at this point, but I just have one more thing to say while I'm here. There's a lot of doctors that are either retired or members of families of retired doctors. You were all part of this medical community too. This last generation, this is our generation. And I want to thank all of them, the ones from your father's generation, your generation, current doctors. And it's just a pleasure, really, to be part of this community. And so anybody out there, would you stand or wave if you're a doctor or professional out there, retired or active? I just want to give everybody a hand. So now we're going to take some questions from the audience or comments or anything you'd like to say to Dr. McGurty. We'd love to hear it. And I'm going to ask Dr. McGurty to step up here so that when he responds, you can hear his reply.
Let me first say a couple of words before that we take the questions. Real quick. So first of all, that whole table needs to stand up back there. Drs. Becker, Shanta David, Ouija Ratnathakam, Josephine Ratnathakam, Bill Higgins, Dr. Mazursky. Thank you very much for coming. So many months ago when Anita had called, I think she first spoke with Kathy, and Kathy, when I come in from work, she said, you know, Anita was thinking about asking you to be the host, the honoree at the museum fundraiser. And I said, no. I said, it's impossible. Don't worry about that. I'm sorry. So I said, no. She'll find somebody else. Everything will be fine. And so second time around, she called me directly. And how am I going to say no to Anita Cream? So I mean, that was that. And I know it's not cream, but anyway. And we do. I do go quite a ways back with the LaPointe family, her maiden name. She already alluded to a number of things where I was with Robert from kindergarten on up, so we have known each other for 60 plus years. And I was the altar boy in her wedding. Well, I was just going to say, Tom, it was the first one. I wasn't Tom's altar boy, so. Anyway, yeah, everything was good. I actually still remember that. In any event, the one thing that I wanted to say is I'm very appreciative of this outpouring. Believe me, I am. But there are so many unsung heroes in our community who, to me, equally deserve the accolades. So I feel a little bit uneasy about some of what's been said. I'm very grateful, but at the same time, I know that there are so many who that are unsung heroes in our community. But in particular, tonight, I want to make sure that I acknowledge everyone here, because really tonight is not about John McGurty. Tonight is about all of the support that you all give to the Peekskill Museum. What a worthy cause that is. It really is. And I really would like for you to take a very nice round of applause for all of the work and all of the support that you've given to the museum, please. So to that end, one last thing, and then I'll let the things move right along. I do want to say that when Anita called, she definitely had the wrong McGurty. There's no question about that. What our governor said before is 100% correct. There's absolutely nothing in my life that I would have accomplished without the absolute rock and the steel backing of my wife, Kathy. Kathy has just been everything. From the time that we met in between college and medical school at the then Peekskill Hospital, Peekskill Community Hospital, to my time in medical school when she was working nights at Lawrence Hospital, to the time that I was on active duty in the Navy when with 2 children in her hands, I'm waving from an aircraft carrier ready to go away for 6 months. But she stuck there, without support down in Virginia and in Norfolk, Virginia, and raised 2 girls while I was away and so on. And so it goes back, and the times I was away in the combat tours in Afghanistan and Iraq, she's been the one who's been the absolute rock of my life, and the one who has, as the governor pointed out, has even gone ahead of me to take care of business that I could not even attend to. So I thank Kathy so much tonight. I love you.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions for John McGurty, or some vignettes, any little stories that you think might want? Okay, Ms. Puglisi. You want, come. Yes.
I want to get up and tell a story.
Okay, come on.
Now listen, we've got a couple other. Sit down, Pete. Don't sing.
We have a couple of people who accompanied us on that trip to Ireland. So go ahead.
How did he know I was going to tell a story about a trip to Ireland? First of all, I want to say one thing before we get into the fun stuff. I'm a Marine, and you don't know how people like John, or what they mean to the Marine Corps. A person who's out there taking care of us. So John, I want to thank you. And I don't call him captain, which the Navy calls him, I call him colonel. So thank you, Colonel, for what you do.
Thank you.
And what you've always done. Anyway, back in 1996, I was honored by being asked to go to Ireland with John. Now, he's not going to go to Ireland. He's going to take 15 people with him to Ireland. I didn't know how that would work out. But John has a reputation, I'm sure it's not true, it's not earned, of being a little cheap, a little close with the dollar. So we got on the plane and we're taking off from Kennedy, and we're out about an hour, half hour, 45 minutes, whatever. And here comes a stewardess saying, is there a doctor on the plane? John goes, I'm a doctor. So up he goes. Now we're in coach, and we don't see John for about another hour, 2 hours, whatever, and he comes back. And we said, John, where you been? And he said, well, there's a little kid up there, I think it was peanuts or something, and I had to give her a shot, and they put me in first class. So we're all going, oh, sure, John gets to Ireland first class, so we all got to pay. So we get to London, and we get on a. I can't look at you, Joe. We get on a line at the Tower of London, and it costs like 10 pounds or something. And John's in front of us, and the guy says 10 pounds, and John flashes his police surgeon badge, and the guy says, "Oh, okay." And we all go, "Oh, here he goes again." Then we get to Ireland, and we go to Trinity University, and we're going to see the Book of Kells, and it costs 5 pounds to go in to see the Book of Kells. And John goes up, he's on line again in the front, and the guy says in his little Irish accent, "Oh, that'll be 5 pounds, please." And John flashes the badge, and the guy says, "Oh, that's beautiful. 5 pounds, please." That's the story.
Uh-oh, don't let Pete up. That sounds like we should let Pete up. Pete, got something to say? Anybody else? Anybody have any stories or any questions? John, how influential was your father in your father? Was your father influential in you? Oh, got a question? Oh, come, right here. His question is probably better than mine anyway.
I'll just take a minute here. So many of you don't know me. I left Peekskill, joined the Army, was gone for 40 years, and I'm now back. You may know my oldest brother, Ozzy Dahl, D-A-H-L. Donna's here with us tonight. But just a couple of things being gone 40 years and being back home, all I can do is validate what I'm hearing tonight. I did run into Marie Bertolini earlier tonight, who actually was my... She said, "Just tell people we went to school together."
What you learning at?
So we went to school together. I will say that she did let us watch the Mets win the World Series in our 5th grade class. So that was a long time ago. But I do want to say, Dr. Becker mentioned earlier the Peekskill Community Hospital when it was a small hospital. We lived about 2 blocks away. I used to ride my bike there around the treacherous Dempsey corner to go visit my mom, because my mom was the person in the emergency room that they came to see. And she came to love Dr. McGurty Sr. and then, of course, Dr. McGurty Jr. And it really did start, that way back as a community hospital, and it has come a very, very long way. I also want to echo the comments of Governor Pataki. John's had 900 jobs. So, after 40 years, we came home. We've only been home for a year or two, and I've gone down to see the McGurtys 7 or 8 times. All except one, John wasn't there, and Kathy was there. And she met us and was a very, very gracious host. And Kathy, you deserve every single bit of the accolades. And anybody who was throwing a party and invited the McGurtys, you were hoping that Kathy would come. Because John would come with his starched shirt, but Kathy would bring, the party with her. And I will say that, just to conclude, I went on in the Army to be a 3-star general. I was in Afghanistan, and my mom was still alive at the time, in Peekskill. And I had sent her a picture. I was a 1-star at the time, and I love the fact that the Marine called you Colonel. I love it, because he was a Navy captain, but the Marines don't have their own doctors. The Navy provides that for them, and he was a Marine his whole career. And he was the chief surgeon for all of the Marines in all of the Middle East. And he was on tour there, and he came through, and he knew I was there, and he came by to see me, and I took a picture of myself with John, and I sent it to my mother. And she said, "Oh my God, you saw John McGurty?" So all of that to say, you know, we're doing a simple recognition of John McGurty here in Peekskill, but this could be a national recognition of John McGurty. It really could be, because of the people he impacted go across this nation. And the nations, all of the cities and all the communities in the nation have people like John McGurty. Thank God that we do. John, Kathy, God bless you both.
General, thank you so much. I want to say a couple words here about that. First of all, General Dahl and Ms. Dahl, Celia's there in the back. She just finished up her studies there at the Culinary Institute, but they were both graduated together from West Point. She was an accomplished pilot in the Army, and quite a career change, but such a wonderful family. Thank you very much for your words. But it's true, and I was in Kandahar, that you know, back your mom had said, if you're ever somewhere near my son, please look him up. And when you say look somebody up in the combat theater, it's not quite the same as looking somebody up out in the desert. But I was able to get to the command headquarters, and General Dahl was there, and I had asked, I believe probably the sergeant, whatever, at the front desk, and I said, you know, do you have an appointment or whatever? I said, no, I just tell General Dahl that John McGurty's here, you know, if you could just have a half a minute. And he came out with a big hug and so on, and we actually got on his satellite phone. We called his mom, and she was just so thrilled. She was a very, very loyal, dedicated receptionist there in the emergency department for decades, not years, decades, and she really added such a nice touch to the emergency department. She was wonderful, and she's certainly missed, and she's one of those unsung heroes that I spoke of before. Kenny, thank you.
Is there somebody else? Yes. I'm right up here. Is there somebody else? Come up here maybe so we can hear you.
Well, it's just going to be very brief.
Okay.
I'm Colonel Bob Krulov, U.S. Air Force. I'm trying to ameliorate a little bit of concern when we speak of the services, because it's hard for the Marines to recognize the Navy, we have a three-star general who is in the Army, and all of that is okay. But today, I want to say happy birthday to you, sir, because it's the 247th birthday of the U.S. Navy.
Joseph? It's Josel, and I remember Josel from high school. We've been good friends since high school, too. Come on, Josel.
Oh, yeah. Try kindergarten.
Try kindergarten.
I love you. Okay, I'm a long-time member of the community here. The reason I'm standing here alive today is because of Dr. McGurty Sr. He was wonderful. I was always in that office on a Saturday afternoon to stay out of trouble. On that note, fast forward in my career, I became a computer person putting in systems into doctors' offices. And I started doing Peekskill. I get a phone call one day, this woman asking for a woman named Joselle. May I ask who's calling? Kathy McGurty. I almost fell off my chair. I'm going, how may I help you? I didn't tell her who I was. I was told by Dr. Ratnathakam I could only speak to her. Speaking, how may I help you? I'm going, my husband just opened up his practice in Peekskill, and I knew where he was located. I said, really? Yes, and I'm calling you because we need a computer system, but I can't buy it from anyone but you. I said, well, thank you. When would you like to see me? I'll be over it, not knowing who I was or how I was even connected to his father. Oh, what a story, John. So in the meantime, I call up the guy with me, we gotta go do a system, but it only can be 7 o'clock at night. What? 7 o'clock at night, you're coming, we're going to Peekskill, and we're going to a very precious practice. So at 7 o'clock at night, we walk in, his patients are gone, the waiting room is empty, we sit down, open up all the screens to show Mrs. McGurty the system, because she's the one making the decision. Okay, so we start. In the meantime, there's a knock on the door. A man he opens the door, a man with a little boy with a cut on his forehead, bleeding, needs stitches. John goes, come on, I'll come help you. And I'm going, And so Kathy, I said, no, I'm a nurse, I'm an RN, I'll go help John, you look at the system. So I'm back in the room taking care of the patient with John. Kathy's doing the system, and she buys it because of a referral. And then I tell her the story of her father-in-law. I said, how could I not show up to your office with your husband and John McGurty Jr.? And ergo, it went in, and we did his business until he retired, going off to war. Thank you, John, and thank you. This is because of Kathy McGurty, the woman behind the man.
So I tell you what, on that note, I've got it now, talking about stitching. There is a little funny story. I've got a lot of funny stories. I honestly, there's so many funny stories. And I look at Rich, I'm thinking of other kind of stories, you know, with cardiac. But it was mentioned that I was the Grand Marshal many years ago in the St. Patrick's Committee. And so after the event, we were all down at then Kelly's, the bar down at the train station. So, you know, beers, yucking it up and so on and so forth. And Joe comes over to me, he says, we got a problem here. I said, what's wrong, Joe? He says, Joe Brady, the Piper. Sorry? We were sworn to secrecy on that. That's all right. It's just our dearest friends. So he says, we got a problem. We got one of Kelly, what's his, Matt. So one of Matt's employees downstairs, he just gashed his head. He said he's bleeding all over the place. He said, you know, he doesn't want to go out to the hospital. He doesn't have any insurance. Blah, blah, blah. So I said, oh my goodness gracious. Okay. I said, how am I going to do this? So I elicited the support of Patty Vesey, one of the nurses in the office, and up comes a limousine with this fellow with the towel on his head, and we jump up to the office, put in about 5 or 6 stitches. He was good to go, happy as a clam, back to the party. Patty, anyway, so that was on the night of my grand marshalship, so to speak. That's a Joe Brady special.
How do we keep John McGurty here? I have no idea. How are we going to keep McGurty here? So all of a sudden this kid comes up, and somebody tells me his kid split his head open. They send me down. Me in blood? No, I go down. But it was a perfect way to keep John involved. So the governor showed up. So John and I went to the office, and I'm watching this stuff. I can't believe it. John said, Joe, go grab a beer. This is not your field. And don't you know, we go back to Kelly's, and 5 minutes later the governor showed up. It was perfect. It was perfect as if it was planned. That was a great story. And he got blood on the original sash that your father wore. And it's still there.
We really enjoyed having everybody here tonight, and I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I hope John McGurty and Kathy McGurty enjoyed this evening too. And it was a pleasure having you here.
Enjoy supporting the museum.
And we want to give you and Kathy a little gift before you leave. The night is coming to a close, but if you, when you leave here, if you go over to Finn and Brew, they're still open. And so you're welcome to go over there. Our evening is finished. Finn and Brew would be on you. Sorry. But here's a gift from the museum to you and Kathy.
Thank you so much. Thank
And hopefully when you open that gift, there might be a little something inside that might be an incentive for your grandchildren to follow in your footsteps. It's, okay. Yeah, I'll tell them as soon as he finishes.
All right, and then we'll take.
Okay. He's choosing to open his gift now. It's like Christmas morning, he just can't wait. It's the game of Operation. In case the grandchildren want to become a doctor, they can practice with you. Thank you so much. Thank you.